Dear Crimson, I heard you were going to review Green Lantern next. Please take these so you can at least have some fun while reviewing this ridiculous garbage heap from a fan. Rings. Comic rings are weird. Hello and welcome to The Book is Better, where we're fixing today's movies one book at a time. When converting something into a movie, there are plenty of adaptation types to consider. Sci-fi, fantasy, action, romance, but none of these seem to elicit a louder, angrier response than nerd reactions to failed comic book adaptations. Yes, in recent years we've certainly seen another spike in comic books turned into movies, with the largest contributors being DC and, of course, Marvel. Since comics have a visual component about them, they can have a much easier time during transition than novels, which rely more heavily on the reader's imaginations. However, every time one of these movies makes the slightest error in characterization, plot element, costume design, or anything like that, fans take to the internet to tell you why the movie is the worst thing ever. They haven't even made the next Superman movie, and yet look at how people are reacting to Ben Affleck playing the next Batman. Naturally, since my show is about movie adaptations from books, I thought I'd throw my hat into the arena. Yeah, they're called comic books. It totally counts. As such, I've decided to take on the recent Green Lantern, which sparked outrage, and for good reason. While comic books can be made into very, very badass movies, you still need to know what you're doing. It's not just the CGI and the fight scenes which attract the fans, but also the character and the story, which you can see in the rich expanded universes of both DC and Marvel. And Hal Jordan as the Green Lantern is one of the biggest names in the DC universe, and this is the first movie in DC's rumored lineup for the Justice League, their answer to Marvel's Avengers. That's setting the bar pretty high, but competition breeds innovation. Anyway, on to history. Hal Jordan was first introduced in 1959 after the first Green Lantern, Alan Scott, dropped out of publication. Hal's powers were all based on an alien ring which allowed him to manifest literally anything he wanted using the power of his own will. He joined a corps of space cops, stopping evil wherever he could. The Green Lantern universe has since expanded far more than I could cover here, but eventually introduced additional Green Lanterns like Kyle Rayner and John Stewart. No! The other one! I could go on, but I have a movie to bitch at. So, let's put those nerd glasses on and fly into The Green Lantern. So the movie opens up with a short bit of exposition.
Together, these 3,600 recruits formed the intergalactic peacekeepers known as the Green Lantern Corps.
We get a small dose of history for the Green Lanterns, and the narrator explains that a huge evil being named Parallax was trapped on this planet. Who wants to bet some hapless fools are going to break him out in the first minute? Called it! And the camera pans up to show us the horror that is Ahmed the dead terrorist?
Silence! I kill you!
No, this is Parallax, who quickly absorbs the energy from these guys and busts out. Making Parallax the enemy in the first Green Lantern movie was easily the biggest mistake the screenwriters made, but I'll get on that later. Now free, Parallax goes on a big rampage, wiping out entire planets by absorbing the inhabitants' fear energy. He's just rolling along, doing his own thing, when he comes across Sur, the Green Lantern who imprisoned him, and he stops in to say hi. After his ship is destroyed, Sur flies to the nearest hospitable planet, Earth. And that's where we meet our hero, Hal Jordan, played by Ryan Why Do I Still Have a Career Reynolds. Now, the first few minutes of any character's introduction are critical, since it sets the flow for how we perceive that character.
Sorry, I gotta run. Make yourself at home, okay? There's, water in the tap.
Okay, so he's a bit of a douche. A really big douche. The biggest douche in the universe. Why is this guy the hero? This character's been on screen for less than 60 seconds and I'm already waiting to see him get his ass kicked. Hal Jordan in the comic takes to his powers quickly and naturally. That's because he's fearless and has a good imagination. This Hal Jordan is a ballsy bastard who doesn't care about anyone but himself.
This is exactly why I didn't want you for this. My father did. And I would have gone with Jensen.
I'd have gone with Jensen too, but unfortunately he's busy not being good enough.
At least he shows up.
The movie's really pushing this fearless thing while forgetting to give him any redeemable qualities. For example, in this scene where he breaks the rules of engagement just so he can say he's better than these UAVs.
How about rules of engagement set ceiling at 50,000 feet?
Yeah, that's because the sabers will stall if they go any higher, right, Tom?
And so will you.
And then crashes a $200 million jet. He just cheated to show off the size of his dick, but at least he's fearless. He just pissed off every coworker he has, but at least he's fearless. He just cost the company a multi-million-dollar contract and forced several layoffs, but at least he's fearless.
Are you scared?
It's my job not to be.
We get it! He has balls the size of minivans! After visiting his nephew, Hal gets picked up in what is almost the strangest alien abduction ever. And it's only now that we see any kind of redeemable qualities from Hal. He sees Al-Mansur sitting wounded in the spacecraft. He doesn't even pause to question what's going on and instead jumps into action and tries to save Al-Mansur. Now this is good! This is the kind of bravery the movie should be aiming for. And now he's sitting over the body of a naked purple alien. Still not the strangest alien abduction ever. So Al-Mansur dies and Hal is given his ring and lantern. As Hal plays with his new toy, we're introduced to a new character, Hector Hammond. After the government seized Al-Mansur's body, they needed an expert to examine it.
Is that what I think it is?
An alien life form, Doctor. The first that mankind has ever encountered, despite what the conspiracy theorists would have you believe. We want you to do the initial assessment of its physiology.
Why me?
As a xenobiologist, your skills are specifically suited to the task.
Alright, I have to rant again. The movie credits Hammond as a xenobiologist, yet this is the first alien life form anyone has ever seen? If that's the case, then what makes Hammond an expert? He can't have studied other aliens, so his entire field is based on speculation. That means he has exactly as much knowledge and experience as you and me. Why is he here again?
I'm not at liberty to tell you.
Damn your lazy ass writing! So Hammond goes to work on Al-Mansur's body, and again, I have to nitpick. Now, I understand that an alien autopsy should be very scientifically advanced and very sterile, but does it need a raising hydraulic lift? And a rotating whatever that circle thing is?
Like yourself, Doctor, I'm a seeker of truth. But the people who pay for facilities like this...
You mean like Disney?
Hey kids, come visit Dead Alien Spaceland! Ride our pointless hydraulic lifts and poke a coma patient that we totally didn't kidnap and paint purple.
Hal manages to unlock the lantern, which telepathically teaches him the oath.
Brightest day, blackest night. No evil shall escape my sight.
I wish I may, I wish I might. Have this wish I wish tonight. I want superpowers! But just as Hal gets it to work, Carol knocks on his door and they go out for a drink. Mostly to establish a romantic subplot. However, the important bit is what happens after he leaves. Some of his old coworkers were in the bar and followed him outside to say hi.
You cost us all our jobs, you son of a bitch!
You know you've written a bad character when you can sympathize with a few punks who ambushed a guy in a parking lot. They don't even do that much to him. They just knock him around a little to get back at him for losing their jobs, which is entirely his fault. Why are we supposed to like Hal again? But no! Hal ruins the scene by figuring out how to use his ring, which he then uses to send them all flying, no doubt requiring hospital visits, which they can no longer pay for thanks to the jobs they don't have. Class act, Hal. It's only then that the ring remembers that the new guy needs training, and not when he swore the oath. So it launches him into space and through a wormhole to planet Oa, home of the Guardians and the Green Lantern Corps. Hal wakes up in his new Green Lantern suit, and this is one of the biggest complaints that a lot of people had about this movie. This suit looks terrible! It looks like they copy and pasted Reynolds' head onto a CGI mannequin. They should have gone with a rubber suit, maybe with some minor graphical touch-ups later, and left the real CGI to the aliens. They at least look decent. Not great, but decent. And speaking of aliens, Hal meets
Talking fish.
Actually, my race is Zidarian. Our DNA does somewhat resemble your own ichthyological species. I am Tom Array, protector of Sector 2813.
He gives Hal a tour of Oa, as well as an introduction to his new powers, and, well...
Welcome to Oa.
Okay, I gotta admit, this is actually a really good scene. No, I'm serious. For all the faults the movie's made so far, and it's a lot, trust me, I'm only at the halfway point by now. This scene looks like someone put some degree of thought into it. It reaffirms what fans already know, but still gives important background info for new viewers. Hal and Tom Array fly around, learning the history of the Green Lanterns, what their mission is, who the Guardians are, and as much as I just railed against the CGI, they managed to do a good job with it in making Oa. This place is beautiful. It almost makes me want to build a summer home here. Since Hal is the new guy, they have to train him, teaching him how to harness his powers, how to fight, and other factoids which seem to get pulled out of nowhere.
Feel that? That's the gravitational pull of your average sun. Makes flying through space very dangerous. The bigger you are, the quicker you burn.
I'm not sure, but I think this could be foreshadowing! Sinestro is still unhappy about Amansur's death though, being such a good friend and all, and nothing says remembering your friend's memory by beating the living hell out of his replacement.
You must ignore your fear. When you're afraid, you can't act. When you can't act, you can't defend. If you can't defend, you die. Come on. You reek of fear, Hal Jordan.
This deters Hal, and he decides that he's had enough already and quits.
I'm done. He's right. I'm only human. We're not ready to defend the universe. Up until a few days ago, we thought we were the only ones in the universe.
Did you do the slightest bit of research? Hal Jordan doesn't give up like that. He was chosen as a Green Lantern because of his determination and strong will. He has some of the strongest on Earth. That's why he stood out for the ring selection. The only time he had a moment of doubt was when his entire city was demolished by a supervillain. It took the death of millions of close personal fans, friends, and family alike for him to finally start to lose control. And yet this gaudy, lazy, arrogant, frightened, piss-poor character gets a little disappointed just because one of the big kids doesn't like him? Fuck your shit! So Hal skips the rest of intergalactic space cop training, I had no idea you could do that, and goes home. Meanwhile, Hammond's own powers are developing from a jolt of yellow fear energy he was infected with during the autopsy. It gives him telepathy, as well as telekinesis, which he uses to great effect.
Freak!
Class dismissed.
Determined to stop Parallax by any means necessary, Sinestro leads a team of Green Lanterns out to stop him, but they are clearly outmatched.
Never before has an enemy dared attack us here. You must tell me what you know.
Deciding enough is enough, Sinestro confronts the Guardians and demands that they tell him what they know about Parallax.
Alone, this Guardian entered the Forbidden Chamber. He wanted to prove the light of fear could be mastered. Consumed by the yellow power of fear, the Guardian became the very evil he had wished to destroy. He became Parallax.
Damn it! That is not even close! Like I said before, Parallax was never the right choice for this movie. He's way too powerful for this, and it just shows how little the writers cared to research for this movie, and that's why the movie failed so hard. Parallax isn't some scary, bald cloud demon. He's the primordial embodiment of fear. Every element in the emotional spectrum has a beast that controls the element, and Parallax is the fear element's beasts. These guys took a really, really cool concept and dumbed it down to this? What the hell were you thinking? Parallax is this close to being an actual god. How could you possibly top that in the sequel?
then we have no choice. We must prepare to harness the power of our enemy and fight fear with fear. We must forge a yellow ring.
Did you not hear what they just said? They literally just explained why this plan won't work. If one of the Guardians, the semi-immortal beings who can harness the raw potential from the emotional spectrum, can't control untapped fear energy, what makes you think you can do it? So Hal goes to a party where he runs into Hammond. How could this movie have so many plot threads yet so little depth? But Hammond's daddy issues come to light as he tries to kill his father, the senator. Fortunately, Hal is there to save the day, just in his own cartoony way. At this point, I think Hal's just fucking with them. This doesn't sit well with Hammond, though, who goes through an uncomfortable transformation. His powers evolve, and his forehead swells to the size of a basketball. Fearing an alien infection, Amanda Waller and Hammond's father try to find out what's wrong with him.
We're gonna get you well again. Whatever it takes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We detected traces of a second alien life form buried within the body of the first. You've been exposed.
Hammond doesn't really want them poking around in his watermelon-sized brain, though, so he just starts killing everyone. But Hal gets his act together and busts in to save the day! Well, at least he's trying to be a hero. And then we get a scene of Hal going to Oa, asking the Guardians to be patient and not to give in to fear.
I need your help.
And this is the scene where DC should have fired the movie's writers and said, no, we will not have our names on this obvious train wreck, and here's why. Hal goes to the Guardians saying that he's afraid, but he can fight fear, and encourages the Guardians to do the same and fight their own fear as well. This just follows Hollywood's desperate formula by writing a character with an arbitrary flaw, even though in this case, it betrays the source material. He's always been headstrong and willful, never giving in to fear, but to act like the Guardians are this shallow is insulting. In the comics, the Green Lanterns aren't immune to fear, but if they see fear for what it is and understand it, they can overcome it. If you're gonna make a movie like this, you have to cater to the fans and the source material. You can't just make up whatever you want just so you can keep writing the only story you know how to tell. Now that can work in plenty of other movies, but not the way they did it here. They need to sit down, try writing a new story for a change, and do their goddamn research. Hal flies back to Earth and somehow finds Hammond again and confronts him. How does he always know where this guy is? They get a brief scene together, but Parallax shows up and says hi. He eats Hammond's energy and starts destroying a city where we get the last fight scene. It's not a bad one and it starts to show the creativity behind the Green Lantern series, but it really doesn't do it justice, especially since Parallax is no strategist.
Deep throat. Gross.
He follows Hal's ploy into space, but if he had stayed behind and kept absorbing energy, he would have grown in power and Hal wouldn't have been able to win over on his own, and would have eventually succumbed to his own fear. He only won because Parallax is an idiot. They dodge asteroids for a bit until Hal remembers that oh so subtle foreshadowing from before.
The bigger you are, the faster you burn.
He lures Parallax close to the sun, where the bald cloud god burns up in seconds, ending what could have been a fascinating villain. So Hal accepts his new responsibility as a Green Lantern and is properly recognized by his peers.
Can I train him? Or can I train him?
Kilowog, you trained him for like 12 minutes. You don't get to claim credit for anything. So Hal reconciles with Carol and flies into the sky as the credits roll. God. Where do I start? I know adaptations can't be perfect, and there will always be things slightly off or missing, but when you write an entire movie as if you never even read the source material... Huh. That was weird. I'm sorry, but if you screw up that badly, you deserve every cent that you've lost. The character is off. The world is rushed. The villain was never the right choice. And this pretty much sank my hopes of looking forward to a great Justice League movie. But when they screw up this badly, what will happen when they try to write a Flash or a Wonder Woman movie? Now personally, I don't think Ryan Reynolds is a bad actor. He seems like a nice guy, and I know he's trying, but I don't know if it's his input and interpretation that's screwing up the story or if it's the writers. I don't think he's a terrible choice for a Green Lantern. Maybe not the best, but he isn't given a lot to work with, so he comes off as the wrong character. The CGI is a large part of the movie, of course, and the movie's dependence on it shows. The CGI is nice, and sometimes it does help to show how imaginative a Green Lantern has to be. I also like how they included Amanda Waller, who could have possibly worked as an opposing Nick Fury and could branch all the supposed Justice League movies together. Perhaps the biggest problem of the movie was the villain. Parallax is way too strong for our first movie like this, where a hero discovers his powers and simply has to learn how to use them. It's just another in the string of examples of how the writers didn't do their research. They just picked the first cool-sounding bad guy and ran with it. You know what they should have done? Gone with something smaller and simpler. Terrestrial. Hey look! They had Hector Hammond the whole time! He would have been perfect to face off against Hal. He's strong enough to give Hal a challenge, yet weak enough that a fledgling hero can stop him. He and Hal even have a personal connection in the movie. One that isn't explored or explained at all, but they could have done something with it. There. A very basic idea, but one that I think fits a much better interpretation of Hal Jordan's character. And that only took me, what, 10 seconds to come up with? And I'm just some jackass who sits in his apartment all day. Imagine what would happen if some real Hollywood writers actually sat down and read the comics and play with these cool rings. You know, simple as they actually are kind of...
Finally, I'm free! Now I can unleash chaos into the world! First, I shall find Stephanie Meyer and Nick Sparks and help them continue writing!
Oh, that's not good.